Hey, how's it going guys, Kris here, and today I've got another one of those weapon versus videos for you, where I pit two of Battlefield 5 similar guns against each other, run over all those main stats, and let you know exactly how they're going to perform in comparison. In this video, I'm going to be honing in on two of the game's faster firing assault rifles, both designed to be used within a similar sort of close to medium range. The Sturmgewehr 1.5, a fully automatic prototype version of the Gewehr 1.5, shoddily made in the final stages of World War II. And the second gun being the M1907 SF, pretty much a full auto conversion of the self-loading variant that was modified by the French near the end of the Great War. Two weapons that kinda play out in a similar way, very dangerous rapid firing machines that can be effective in the hands of aggressive players. But of course, just like all of the guns in the game, there are going to be a few differences, making them better or worse in certain situations. So it's my job to run over these differences, give you the complete lowdown on how they fit into the assault class, and how they're going to function in relation to each other. Let's get those stats up. So there's no denying that the Sturmgewehr 1.5 and the M1907 SF are both nasty things to be up against on the battlefield, and if you run into an enemy player wielding one in close quarters, then you've got a good reason to feel a bit concerned. The damage values are pretty much identical between the two rifles, as they're both going to inflict the same maximum damage of 25 up to 10 meters, which is pretty normal for a lot of the fully automatic weapons in the game, translating over to a 4-shot kill up close. And then that damage is going to start to decrease beyond 10 meters, sloping off more and more over distance, to the point where that minimum damage of 17 is reached, at the distance of 75 meters. Basically meaning that it could take up to 6 bullets to drop an opponent further away, especially if they're fortunate enough to have a full bar of health. These are some fairly standard figures for the assault rifles, giving them more range power than the Medic's SMGs, though slightly less than the support class's machine guns. And because the Sturmgewehr and the M1907 share the very same damage stats, there isn't really any difference regarding the strength behind those bullets. With a 2x headshot multiplier, banging one of those bullets into someone else's unfortunate face is going to reduce the number of shots needed to kill by 1, making life a little bit easier, thus cutting down those already fairly quick kill times even more. So unsurprisingly, the main thing dividing the two guns in terms of raw stopping power all mainly comes down to those fire rates, and in this case specifically, they both happen to boast some fairly nippy speeds. The Sturmgewehr 1.5 has the less impressive but still pretty brutal fire rate of 670 RPM, giving you plenty of firepower to easily rival a lot of the fully automatic weapons in the game, let alone the assault class. Though with the M1907 SF being a bullet spewing monster, shooting at the speed of 770 RPM, so an extra 100 RPM faster than the Sturmgewehr 1.5, this makes it an extremely deadly thing to be up against, especially within those shorter sight lines where both guns are going to kill at their quickest, requiring the least amount of shots to take down other players. And so this extra speed gives the M1907 an edge in a lot of close quarter battles, giving it a bit of extra oomph when you want to put those pesky enemies down hard and fast. Now, rapid firing weapons don't normally have very steady recoil patterns, as the force of those bullets being shot out in such a short space of time usually pushes the gun's line of fire around a little bit more than you probably find comfortable. And there's definitely no exception when it comes to these two death machines. The Sturmgewehr 1.5 and the M1907 SF both have some pretty different recoil figures to one another, affecting the way they kick around and perform when you pull their triggers. But although you'd naturally expect the M1907's muzzle to dance around more so than the Sturmgewehr's, because it's got a faster fire rate, you might be surprised to hear that it's actually going to be the more accurate weapon, having a lower horizontal recoil value of 0.205. as opposed to the Sturmgewehr's more erratic value of 0.275. But this is reversed when we take a look at the gun's vertical recoil, with the Sturmgewehr 1.5 having a slightly lower upwards kick of 0.75 instead of 0.82, basically meaning that the M1907 is going to be a little bit more precise, but not quite as stable. With the Sturmgewehr 1.5 being a tad easier to control, might mean that you can fire in longer durations before the gun starts to stray off target. And the M1907 SF therefore will probably be a bit more suited for burst firing, to help prevent that muzzle drifting off into the sky. Recoil is going to stack up quicker with the M1907, down to it shooting those bullets out faster, and so this is going to make it a trickier gun to use against enemies further away, over those mid to long ranges, where you'll find it harder to take advantage of those nippier kill times. When we throw those specializations into the mix, there's quite a few of them that can boost precision for both weapons, and both of the guns happen to have the recoil buffer, lowering that vertical kick down to more controllable values. though only the Sturmgewehr can have its horizontal recoil lowered, with it just so happening to have the ported barrel spec. Applying this will give the Sturmgewehr an improved value of 0.22, which still isn't quite as good as the M1907's, but puts it a lot closer nevertheless. The fact that the Sturmgewehr can potentially have a much lower vertical value, similar horizontal value, and a more manageable fire rate can often make it seem like an easier thing to use over further distances, generally making it a better mid-range weapon in a lot of cases. And to complement its use over distance even more, the Sturmgewehr also happens to have a slightly higher muzzle velocity of 620 meters per second, instead of 570. Neither of which are particularly rapid bullet speeds, but still another thing that might give the Sturmgewehr 1.5 a bit of an edge for mid-ranged engagements. So let's move on to the reliability section, which is definitely an important one for these two guns, with them both being designed to be used in closer proximities, where you're going to be in the danger zone and need to rely on them to get you through the fight in one piece. The most obvious thing we can see straight away is that the Sturmgewehr 1.5 can hold up to 31 rounds at a time, so 10 more than the M1907 SF, carrying a total of 21 rounds per mag. And because the M1907 blasts all of those bullets out at a quicker rate, this means that you're going to run out of ammo a hell of a lot sooner, forcing you to reload more often, which could potentially put you in more vulnerable positions, especially if you're surrounded by a load of blokes on the enemy team. With the M1907 excelling within dangerous territory, close by to your opponents, this essentially makes it more of a risk-reward kind of weapon that limits its usability against multiple targets, but makes it a devastating force against lone players, with the gun being more suitable for knocking down enemies one by one. The Sturmgewehr 1.5 can usually handle a little bit better in risky situations, down to it having bigger magazines and a more controllable fire rate. We can also see that it's got faster tactical reloads too, taking 2.3 seconds to swap over a partially empty magazine, instead of 2.7 seconds. This is going to boost that reliability more so in CQC, generally making the Sturmgewehr the more dependable option, and the fact that it can have its reloads cut down with specializations, reducing its tactical reload down to just 2 seconds, is really going to help you out when you're behind enemy lines. But it's key to know that despite having the slower tactical reloads, the M1907's empty reloads aren't really all that bad, as they're actually a teeny bit better than the standard Sturmgewehrs, taking 3.3 seconds instead of 3.5. The Sturmgewehr will be quicker still with the quick reload spec, reducing empty reloads down to just 3 seconds, but it's still pretty close to the M1907's. And because there isn't a massive gap between the M1907's tactical and empty reload times, this might make those tactical reloads a little bit less important. The last key thing to really point out regarding reliability is the fact that the Sturmgewehr might have the quick reload specialization to help with the gun's reliability, but the M1907's got access to sling and swivels instead. This is going to complement the rifle's aggressive style, because you'll be able to swap to your sidearm more effectively, avoiding the need to perform those longer reloads, should you need to. And it'll also go hand in hand with the hipfire improving specializations too, allowing you to shoot sooner after sprinting, and therefore take advantage of the gun's rapid kill times even more so in close quarters, while you're running around up on the front lines. So which gun should you choose? Both the Sturmgewehr 1.5 and the M1907 SF are pretty angry weapons that can punish their victims within shorter sight lines, but tend to be less effective the further away your opponent happens to be. For this reason, the two guns are going to fit in quite well with aggressive playstyles and offensive tactics, but each rifle does have its better qualities over the other, being able to perform more effectively in certain scenarios. The Sturmgewehr 1.5 has a relatively strong power output, but is the lesser of the two when it comes to raw lethality, having decent but slightly slower kill times. This means that you're more likely to get outgunned by other faster firing weapons, but with the Sturmgewehr being a more controllable rifle, having lower vertical recoil, it'll often seem to function better when you're firing in longer streams. It might not be the most accurate thing in the world, but those larger magazines should help to make up for any missed shots. And because the gun's got a slightly higher muzzle velocity and a rate of fire that's easier to moderate, this should help to make the weapon a bit more usable over further distances, perhaps making up for that slower fire rate and allowing it to be slightly more effective. You'll generally be able to reload quicker with the Sturmgewehr, especially if you've applied that quick reload specialization, and so this will probably make it a more reliable weapon to use in awkward situations, making you less vulnerable when you're running around in the thick of the action, where the gun is generally designed to be used the most. The M1907 SF, on the other hand, is a bit more of a beast that can shred people up within its optimal range very quickly and very easily, but often suffers more against targets further away, due to it being less stable, drifting upwards a lot more with prolonged fire. So in a lot of cases, you've got to burst your shots into smaller groupings if you want to stay on target, slowing down those kill times and giving your opponents more time to react. But providing you do this, the M1907 can actually be a more accurate weapon, having those lower horizontal recoil figures. Unlike the Sturmgewehr with its larger magazines and decent reload speeds, the M1907 won't be quite as reliable in CQC, with those mags being depleted a lot quicker, forcing you to reload more often, thus leaving you open to attack. And this can make the gun a very risky one to use, especially when you're playing aggressively, which is really how you should be using it, to take advantage of its brutal stopping power. It won't be able to take on multiple players quite as easily, like the Sturmgewehr probably could, but so long as you're careful and plan your moves well, the M1907 SF will usually give you the better results within its optimal engagement range, up close and personal. So that's basically it for another one, folks. Hope you enjoyed the video, and make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell to be the first to see all new content coming very soon. Thanks for watching, have a good day, and I'll be seeing you in that next episode.